Shalom, everyone, and welcome to Congregation Kol Ami. It's delightful to have you all here as we are slowly creeping out from underneath our COVID restrictions. It's exciting to be able to gather together to see faces and to be able to rejoice and celebrate our great tradition together. So, of the small traditions we have here at Congregation Kol Ami, the first of them is Tohu Vracha, asking everyone to take a moment to think about and recall something good that's happened to them in the past week. It doesn't have to be great. It doesn't have to be awesome. It can be just a particularly good blintz or just a moment of fantastic relaxation you enjoyed, or maybe your cat fell asleep in your lap or something like that. Any good and blessing that's happened to you in the past week. So, TJ.
Our grandchildren had a sleepover in our house last night.
Lovely.
First time in quite some
time. Sure.
We had a wonderful evening and morning with them.
Excellent. That's wonderful. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Those little things in life. Yes, my dear.
Well, we discovered we had 6 babies in our fish tank.
Wow! 6? What kind of fish do you have?
Petras.
Petras. Oh, they're very attractive. Those are lovely fish. Yes?
We have 2 dogs.
And 2 dogs. Are they small yappy dogs?
No.
Medium-sized awesome dogs, or just fantastic slobbery big dogs?
Huge dogs.
Huge dogs. Those are great.
One of them is named Sarah and one of them is named Logan.
Okay, excellent. No, all dogs are good. I'm not sure you're allowed to have 2 good and blessings, but go ahead.
We got the Tetras. We didn't do anything unexpected with the Tetras. They just had babies.
Oh, wow. Okay, man, it's just hopping at your house. Who else has a good and blessing to share? Richard.
So I had the opportunity to have dinner last night with a couple that I've last seen over 2 years ago.
Yeah.
It was a delight to come back in contact with them as they were traveling from Houston through Dallas.
Sure.
To Oklahoma. So.
It just keeps happening, and it doesn't get any less pleasant to be able to reconnect with people. I agree. Yes?
Well, we went to Las Vegas for 3 days, and the good thing was I lost less money than I thought I would lose.
Right? Avoiding a negative outcome is a good thing, right? Absolutely. Well, that's great. Anybody else have something to share? All right. Well, I just have to say that this week I've had the opportunity to meet face-to-face with a whole bunch of people I haven't been able to see for a while. And it is absolutely just weirdly thrilling to be able to just sit down and talk with people for a while and enjoy their company. So it's a small thing, but it's invaluable, absolutely invaluable. So I had so many people coming in. I got to talk to so many people. I didn't get to designate anyone to kindle Shabbat lights. So I'm going to turn to our forever reliable ex-president, Becky, and ask her to come up and kindle the lights of Shabbat. We're going to be on page 1 of, oh no, actually we're going to be on page 26. We're going to be using our second service tonight. So go to page 26.
A different light shines this day, a light pure and bright. Its glow is like that of an angel's. Its brightness fills my heart completely. I shall rejoice and be glad. See if I can do this without burning myself. Okay, one match for y'all who don't know, that's like a first for me. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Le'adlik ner shel Shabbat. Praised are you, Holy One, a blessing whose presence fills the world, who hallows us with mitzvot and inspires us to kindle Shabbat lights.
And we're going to invite Dr. Nikki to get us started musically.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
What can we go to? You wanna?
a Naboon would be great, and then we'll go on from there.
Nice. Take a couple of nice deep breaths. La da 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 da. La da 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 da. La da 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 da. Ya da 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 da. Ya da 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 da. Ya da 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 da. One more time. Ya da 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 da. Ya da 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 da. Ya da 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 da. Ya da 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 da. Ya da 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 da. Ya da 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 da.
I'm going to invite you to turn back to page 24, and we have a couple of beautiful poems based on ancient texts and new. Enclosed and hidden, you are a garden, a still pool, a fountain. Stretching your limbs, you open a field of pomegranate blossoms, treasured fruit among the blossoms, henna, sweet cane, bark, and saffron, fragrant woods and succulents, the finest spices and perfumes, living water. You are a fountain, a well, a river flowing from the mountains. And with Ruth Bryn, we sit here newly gathered before the face of our God, joined together to worship the eternal, to sanctify our existence. How shall we begin to search, to reach the sacred part of ourselves where rests the essence of all that is good? By stopping our concerns for those things which distract us all week long, by welcoming the Sabbath bride, and by opening ourselves to hear the message, oh so silent, carried to us by the small, still voice of God. The clearest voice of God is that of each other. And what we do here today, coming together as a community, is to create an angelic fellowship. Angels may come from on high, but they certainly come together on a horizontal plane. So if we turn to page 27, we are going to welcome each other and the angels of Shabbat with Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaSharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Chamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Bohem HaShalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei HaMlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Barchuni LaShalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei HaMlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Sed ma shalom, mal ela shalom, mal elyon. Mi melech malkei hamlachim hakadosh baruch.
So peace to you, you ministering angels, messengers of the Most High, the majesty of majesties, the Holy One of blessing. Come in peace, bless us with peace, go in peace. Join me together on the paraphrase of Psalm 139 on the bottom of page 28. O God, you have searched me and know me well. You understand all my thoughts and every word upon my tongue. Your presence surrounds me. You touch me with your hand. Your presence exceeds my own perception. It is a wonder beyond imaginings. The Hatzi Kaddish as we transition to the evening service.
Yitgidal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbo.
Amen.
Yamad yivrach Yerutei v'yamlech mahutei. V'chayekonu v'yomekon u'chayete kol Beit Yisrael. Bagala, bagala, u'bizman kavi, v'yemeru amen. Yehesh me'rabah me'orah, ve'alam olam me'omaya, yitbarach, yitbarach, v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar, v'yitraman, v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar, v'yitaleh, v'yitalal, shemeda kudashah, Leila min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbirchata v'nechemata, damimran v'alma, v'yimaru.
When a bride or a sovereign enters the room, it's customary to rise. Some of us can rise in body, some of us can only rise in spirit, but whatever your ability, please rise for the Baruch Hu.
Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamorah.
Baruch Adonai Hamorah Le'olam Va'ed. Psalm 104. Bless the eternal, O my soul, O my eternal God, you are very great. You are clothed in glory and majesty and wrapped in light like a robe. You spread out the heavens like a tent cloth. God sets the rafters of the high places in the waters. God makes the winds to be messengers, fiery flames to serve you. You made the deep cover the earth as a garment, and the waves to stand above mountains. You made springs gush forth in torrents. They make their way between the hills. You water the mountains from your high places, and the earth is sated from the fruit of your work. The trees of the eternal drink their fill, the cedars of Lebanon your own planting, where birds make their nests, while the stork has her home in the junipers. God made the moon to mark the seasons, and the sun knows its time to set. How manifold are your works, O Eternal. In wisdom you have made them all. May the glory of the Eternal endure forever, and may you rejoice in your works. Blessed is the Eternal, O my soul. Alleluia. As I sing of one God, I rejoice in all the wonders of this world, and I pray for the day when all people shall be as one.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto, Le'olam Bo'ed.
Please be seated, and we'll continue together with the Via Hafta.
V'ahavta et ובכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך וחיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם ושבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ושכבך ובקומך ושרתם לאות ידיך וחיו לתותפות ביניך ופרחם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תצטרכו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיהם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתיכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם אלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Middle of page 32. When a Jew speaks a word of prayer in love and in awe, the power of that word gives birth to God's glory. And the angels call out to God, "Who is like unto you?" How great is even a single word of such a prayer. It causes the very angels to sing. All worlds join with the one who serves the eternal. This is the meaning of Micha Mocha. The one who sings the song below can arouse so many songs on high.
Yai die 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 yada die die bim bom. Yai die 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 yada die die bim bom. Yada die 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 yada die die bim bom. Yada die 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 yada die die bim bom. Mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai. Mi kamocha Nedar bar Kodesh, no Radihilot, oh Sefelet, no Radihilot, oh Sefelet, Yai die, 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 yada die, die, bim bom, Yai die, 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 yada die, die, bim bom, Yai die, 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 yada die, die, bim bom, Yai die, 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 yada die, die, bim bom.
When your children saw your might at the shore of the sea, "This is my God," they proclaimed. "Adonai shall reign forever." Hashkivenu, a moment for our own settling in for this evening. Let there be love and understanding among us, and let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Eternal God, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts. May we lie down in peace, and may we rise up to find our hearts waiting to do your will. Hashkivenu, a prayer for bedtime.
Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'amidenu malkeinu l'chayim. U'piros aleinu sukkot shlomecha, v'takinenu למען שמך.
I might imagine God as a teacher or a friend, but those images, like king, master, father, or mother, somehow are too small for me now. God is the force of motion and light in the universe. God is the strength of life on our planet. God is the power moving us to do good. God is the source of love springing up within us. God is far beyond what we can comprehend. Again, I invite you to please rise if able for tefillah.
Adonai sekatatika ufia v'tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el HaGadol HaGibor HaNorah, El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei HaKol, V'Zocher Chasdei Avot V'Imahot, U'Mevii Gula Libnei B'neihem, V'Lam Shemo V'Yahava, Melech Ozer Moshiach Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham B'ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayei HaKol Atah Rak Le'Hoshia, Mechalkel Chaim B'Chesed, Mechayei HaKol B'Rachamim Rabim. So make Noflim B'Rofei Holim, U'Matir Asurim, U'Mechayei Me'unato, L'Shenei Afar, Michamocha Ba'al Miburot, U'Midon Me'elah, Melech Menit U'Mechayei, U'Matziach Yeshua, Manatah L'Chayot HaKol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayei HaKol. Atah Kadosh V'Shimcha Kadosh, V'Kadoshim V'Kol Yom Yachal V'Chasecha, Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. You are holy, your name is holy, and all who strive to be holy daily sing your praise. Praised are you, the holy God. Which one? Okay. Please be seated, everyone. And we're going to continue with a song for Shabbat, Yismechu v'Malachu Techa. If you are a guest, we have a few guests tonight. The way we sing this here at Congregation Kol Ami is we sing the chorus together, and then when we hit the stanza, we do a call and response. You'll get the hang of it in a minute. It's kind of fun. So, all right, Yismechu v'Malachu Techa on the bottom of page 36. Yismechu v'Malachu Techa, Shamrei, 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 Shabbat V'Korei, Oneg Shabbat. Yismechu v'Malachu Techa, Shamrei, 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 Shabbat V'Korei, Oneg Shabbat. Mekadeshei, Mekadeshei Shavi Shabbat, Kulam Yispe'u, V'yitantu Matuvecha Shabbat. Bekore Oneg Shabbat Yismechu V'Malechutecha Shamrei Shabbat Bekore Oneg Shabbat Uvashvi Ratzita Bo V'Kidosh To Shabbat Chemdat Yami Oto Karata Shabbat Yismechu V'Malechutecha Shamrei Shabbat Bekore Oneg Shabbat Yismechu V'Malechutecha Shamrei Shabbat Bekore Oneg Shabbat Zecher Lemase Bereshit Shabbat Zecher Lemase Bereshit Shabbat Yismechu V'Malechutecha Shamrei Shabbat Bekore Oneg Shabbat Yismechu V'Malechutecha Shamrei Shabbat Bekore Oneg Shabbat.
A prayer for acceptance. We reach for you, God, from our quiet places. May we stand still for a brief moment and listen to the rain. Stand still for a brief moment and watch the play of sunlight and shadow on leaves. For a brief moment, listen to the world. We need a quiet space to test the balance of our days, the weight of our own needs against the heaviness of the world's demands. The balance is precarious. Steady us with faith. Quiet places and stillness where we will hear our own best impulses speak. Quiet places and stillness where we will reach out to each other. We will find strength in silence, and with that strength, we will turn again to your service. We offer to thanksgiving. There are times, God, when I feel alone. And yet I know in my heart that I am never alone. You're always there, waiting for me to speak to you of my desires, fears, hopes, and dreams. Yet, how seldom do I reach out to you to voice my gratitude for all that is beautiful in my life, for all the gifts of my life. Love, family, and friendship have all come from you, but the greatest gift of all is your presence, which time and again has given me strength, hope, and courage. In the midst of doubt and of confusion, I need to know that you are beside me, not only in the prayer book, but in the depth of my being, my friend, my strength, my God. We're going to close out this part of our service with a prayer for peace, Shalom Rav, and then we're just going to take a few moments for our own silent prayers and reflections.
Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech adon lecho hashalom. Ki atahu melech adon lecho hashalom. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov b'einecha levarech et amcha Yisrael b'chol leil v'chol shah b'shlomecha. Shalom Rav Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Tasim leolam. Tasim leolam. Oh, say shalom bin Roma, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'yakol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Oh, say shalom bin Roma, Hula se shalom aleinu, ve'yakol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'yakol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, v'yakol 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 Yisrael. Ve'imru amen.
So, if you recall last week, I suggested adding a new minhag, a new custom to when we do Tovu Bracha, good and blessing, and that is to say a blessing at the end. Now, I didn't do that tonight, and that's because the Tovu Bracha is not quite over with, because you see, it's actually TJ and Mark's anniversary, right, this past week? All right. So because I can do this to you, I will. Come on up here, guys. I have this power. Come on up, stand up here in front of the bima. Joshua ben Sira wrote, "My soul takes pleasure in three things. They are beautiful to the Lord and to all human beings: harmony among people, friendship among neighbors, and a husband and wife suited to each other." When a man loves his wife as himself and honors her more than himself and guides his children in the right path, the scripture says of him, "You shall know that you shall dwell in peace." Well, it's a special opportunity to celebrate with you too, because you are amudim. It's a phrase that I use occasionally for certain people. It means pillars. And if you look over there on that tapestry, you'll see that there are in fact two pillars. And if we looked inside the ark, we'd see that on the breastplates, there are two pillars. Those are not ordinary pillars. Those are the two pillars that purportedly stood in front of the Temple of Solomon. And each one had a name, Boaz and Yachin, which means strong and upright. All right? And the two of you have been contributors to this congregation, strong and upright, for so long that it's hard for me to imagine this community without you. We need you to hold us together and hold us up. You bear a lot of weight and a lot of pressure, and you're always there, and we really appreciate that. So we want to recognize what has been achieved in your marriage. Hodu labnai ki tov ki leolam hasto. Praise the Lord, for he is good. God's love is everlasting. How many years ago? 51 years ago, in the presence of your family and friends, the two of you joined together in a ceremony consecrating your love for each other. Your life together, your sharing of joy and sorrow, the lives of your children with which you have been blessed, and your continued devotion to each other has nurtured and expanded upon the promise of the first hour that you were husband and bride. Shiru labnai shir chadash ki niflot asa. Sing unto God a new song, for he has done something marvelous. Our God and God of our fathers, we are grateful for the love which you are blessed and sustained as husband and wife, whose hearts are filled with gratitude. O God, may they continue to enjoy your blessing and a new song for many years to come. Embraced by the love of their children and their children's children and their friends, so that they may always live in joy and happiness and love and harmony, in peace and companionship. And let us all say, Amen. So, your joy is our joy. So we're going to say the blessing I've been reserving up to this point. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hatov v'hametim. Praised are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of time and space, who is good and does good for all of us. And let us all say Amen. Amen. And Mazel Tov.
Mazel tov.
Siman Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Siman Tov, Siman Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Siman Tov, Siman Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Siman Tov, Yelanu. All right. We're at an odd juxtaposition here. We are on Shabbat, the time of our primary joy, but we are also on a very particular weekend in the Jewish calendar. And if we go to the Mishnah, the very earliest post-biblical book on Jews and how we should construct our lives, they say, Mi niknas av ma'aitin simcha. That is, from the time that the month of Av enters, we should reduce our joy. This phrase, what does it mean? It means that from the time that the month of Av begins until we reach the 9th of Av, Tisha B'Av, we are supposed to deliberately scale back happiness and celebration in our lives. Who does that? But we are supposed to do that. Why? Because on Sunday, we will be observing the premier day of mourning in the Jewish calendar, Tisha B'Av. We not only mourn the primary story, which is the destruction of Jerusalem and the destruction of our temple by the Neo-Babylonians in 586, but then because, as a matter of economy, we pile on a whole bunch of other Jewish tragedies. And we all take them all on this single day, right? The Romans come and they destroy Jerusalem again, supposedly on the same day. We're expelled from Spain, supposedly on the same day. The Crusaders begin the crusade that destroys the Rhineland Jewish communities, supposedly on the same day. There is a certain kind of organizational tidiness to it, I have to say. We mourn on this day, and we are supposed to fast. We do not listen to music. We do not eat meat or drink wine. Some of us do not even bathe. And then the Haftarah that we have for tomorrow, in common with that of last week, is Isaiah chapter 1, where Isaiah comes out swinging against the Jewish people with our many failings, a Haftarah of rebuke to alert us mentally and to be that we need to be sad and feel reproached and grieve. The Haftarot following the 9th of Av, on the other hand, are Haftarot of comfort. We start hearing the lovely poetry of Isaiah, in which he tells us that God is there to comfort us and bring us gently out of our mourning. And yet, as we approach this day on which many Jews around the world are gripped with sadness, I struggle with this. I'll be honest with you. I fasted once while I was living in Jerusalem. On Tisha B'Av, I sat on the ground with thousands of other people in front of the Western Wall without shoes, and I fasted all day, and we read the book of Lamentations. But it's weird. It's weird to be mourning Jerusalem, sitting in Jerusalem, right? And yes, I could be fasting all day, and there's all these great restaurants right over there. Right, and so you live with this juxtaposition between what we're supposedly have lost and what we've recovered. So I struggle with this holiday, and I think it's exemplified by this wonderful object that I found online. It came up in the course of one of these, algorithms. The algorithm figured out I was Jewish, figured out I was interested in religious stuff. And so it offered me this. It is a picture of a squirrel in a kippah mourning for the destruction of Jerusalem. All right? It is so non sequitur that it sort of captures how I feel about this particular thing. And I'll tell you why. Look it. There's part of me that thinks that this day of mourning, Tisha B'Av, maybe should actually be one of the most positive days in all of Jewish history. How can I say that? That's what a ridiculous thing to say. So look it's always been a day of general commemoration. And along the way, it's hoovered up a lot of other sorrows and tragedies. And on this day, on Sunday, we're supposed to read the book of Lamentations, which was composed in the immediate aftermath of the destruction of Jerusalem. So I get it, I understand. Before Yom HaShoah, this was the most tragic event in Jewish history. But as a Jew and a history geek, this historical aspect of it, while it resonates with me, it presents a different kind of issue, and that's a theological issue. And the theological issue that's always bothered me is that the Tisha B'Av is constructed around the idea that we deserved it, right? That God was punishing us for our sins and failings, and he did so by destroying the Jewish Commonwealth and destroying his own temple. And there's many, many amazing stories that are told about this idea. So, the destruction of the temple, it's a central idea to the ancient Israelites. And the Talmud even tells this story that when the first temple was destroyed, a group of young priests gathered with the keys to the sanctuary in their hands, and they climbed to the roof of the building as it was first catching fire and declared, "Ruler of the world, since we have not merited to be trustworthy custodians, let us take the keys and give them back to you." And they threw them into the heavens. And something like a divine hand emerged, received the keys, and then the priests, to tie things up neatly, threw themselves into the fire. Those were not just keys to a building, according to our traditional interpretation of this holiday, but the key to the human relationship with God. But I'll be perfectly honest with you. I don't believe this. Because I am a history geek, I know that history doesn't automatically bring just desserts to the people who deserve it. Sometimes bad things happen to good people. Sometimes it's not so simple to say that something terrible has happened because I did something wrong or someone I love did something wrong. So look it, we lost the keys to the temple, but what happened when we lost the temple is we may have found the keys to being an eternal people. Because before that, Judaism, Israelite religion, was a religion of place. It was a religion of shrines. It was a religion where you could think of God being in this one place on a hilltop in the middle of the land of Israel. But afterwards, it changed completely. Not only did we lose our place, we lost the hierarchy that was the ancient priesthood, and that narrowness, that sense of narrowness between us and God that had to be bridged was gone. No longer sacrificial services. What came afterwards was something very different, a different kind of Judaism, a spirituality of time, a calendar, like as we celebrate Shabbat, and a spirituality of journey, a spirituality of pilgrimage, one in which each of our relationship to God exists irrespective of where we are, when we are, or who we are, in which the relationship is expressed not through giving of crops or slaughtering of animals, but through repentance, prayer, and charity. I can't help but think that those are better things, that we have moved on. And I happen to think the temple's pretty interesting. I think I've given more thought and more appreciation to the ancient temple than most Reform rabbis do. If you go down to the end of the hall, I have a whole display on the ancient temple and all the books and articles I've read on it. It's fascinating. Nonetheless, it baffles me that segments of the Jewish world still consider the temple to be the pinnacle of human relationship with God. I do not understand the one theme of Tisha B'Av in parts of the Jewish world where they hope genuinely, beyond all hope, mourning constantly that if they just mourn enough, then this will trigger God to rebuild the temple. If prayer is the expression of the ultimate human wants and needs, then apparently what we need is a barbecue. All right? I'm a Texan. I like barbecues as much as anybody, but do I really want to express my religiosity primarily through sacrifices? No. The Reform movement made one of its best decisions to set aside in our prayers and in our traditions our fixation on restoring the temple service. The move from the temple, I would argue, has actually been a good thing. Without the events of 586 and 70 CE, we would not be who we are today. And without it, Judaism would be very different. In fact, I'm not sure that an ancient system of sacrifices would have survived at all. So losing the temple gave our people an eternal presence in the world. So Tisha B'Av, despite the very real mourning, despite the real sense of pain that it conjures up, is also the anniversary of something extraordinarily positive. We're at a time in our calendar where we are told to reduce our joy, but we need to be careful about what we're mourning for. What I mourn is our past suffering, the destruction that our ancestors experienced, the tragedy that was, to be a witness, something akin to the ancient Jewish 9/11 would have been that. It would have been terrifying for them. Their pain was exacerbating by what they understood was going on, their sense of being punished and their sense of being separated from God deliberately by God. But what I will not do is mourn for the loss of that very fascinating, very interesting, but really pretty archaic system worship, sacrifices and priests and the temple. On Tisha B'Av, there's a part of me that knows this is also the anniversary of one of the greatest developments in our history. So, Misha Niknas Av B'Meitin B'Simcha, from the time that the month of Av begins, we reduce our joy, but that positive change also comes with it, as often is the case. There's often a price that we pay for positive change. So what I'll share with you instead is a very, very subtle Hasidic story that I happen to love. So there's a little known Hasidic Rebbe named the Holy Rutzkeiner. That's terrible to say. That's probably why he's not so famous. He's from the Rabbi Israel of Rutzkein, and he lived until the mid-19th century. And his chief philosophy was to reject all feelings of sadness, all feelings of bitterness. So his Hasidim, he taught them to, would engage in all sorts of practical jokes on the 9th of Av in order to mitigate the sadness of the experience. They would throw burrs at each other. They would set up pots in the doorway to fall over and spill on people, right? Fun stuff. And then they conceived this prank that was worthy, absolutely worthy of Looney Tunes. All right. So they used the dormer in the synagogue. There's a window opening up in the ceiling, right? And they opened it up and they set down, old synagogues, pretty dark, not easy to see what's going on, a net with a line that ran up through the dormer. And those who were up on the roof would wait until someone unsuspecting would come in, and then they'd yank it up and they'd trap him in the net, right? And you know how this is going to work, right? So someone comes in, they can't see who it is because it's so dark, but that person can't see the net on the floor, so they pull him up. And to their dismay, they realize they've pulled up the Rebbe. Such an indignity. And on Tisha B'Av, as soon as they recognized who he was, they let him down. But the Rutzkeiner said, "Master of the universe, if your children are not properly observing this day, take it away from them." In other words, do we really need to be doing this to ourselves? I don't know. I honor the holiday, but I'm not going to sit here. I'm not going to tell you that because of overwhelming sadness, you need to fast. Just recognize that things that once were have now changed, and we ought to celebrate that dafka b'simcha, as they say in Israel, precisely with joy. So Shabbat Shalom, everyone. All right, and you too can get this wonderful Tisha B'Av squirrel from, I think it was Wayfair. So, all right. That brings us to announcements, and that is our beloved former president, Becky, who's going to be doing announcements for us.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
I stand here in my new role, treasurer. Yay.
Yes, I was going to say, you are still with us.
I am. I'm still on the board. Yeah, you're stuck with me. Sorry. So, as always, it's nice to see everybody. It's nice to see new faces. It's nice to see familiar faces. So welcome back. Tikkun Olam is doing a school supply drive throughout the month of July. It's part of our partnership with Denton County Friends of the Family for their school supply drive. There is a full list of supplies which can be found where, say it with me, on our website. You can find all sorts of great information on our website. Donations can be brought to the shul throughout the month. You can leave them with Bob in the office, or we could also arrange a home pickup of donations. Bear in mind, we're also looking for volunteers the week of August 2nd through the 7th to help fill those backpacks. So for all of those pickup arrangements, to volunteer, or if you just have questions in general, please contact our VP of Tikkun Olam.
I have a volunteer. She doesn't know it yet, but I've found one. Okay.
That's called voluntold.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, something like that.
Yeah. So please see Melissa Trapani, our VP of Tikkun Olam. CK's book club, it's still up and going. They're hosting Howard J. Smith, the author of Meeting Mozart, a novel drawn from the secret diaries of Lorenzo da Ponte, probably da Ponte. If you enjoy history, particularly 18th century history and the shenanigans of an emperor's court, if you love the music of Mozart, if you like mysteries, masquerades, opera, and spies, you will love this novel that spans generations and even has a New Jersey deli as a locale. And look, I just read what's here. Come join us to find out from the author all about this book, July 20th. So that's next week at 7 p.m. They're doing Zoom. You don't have to have prior reading, but I'm pretty sure that's probably helpful. It is fun in the camaraderie of CKA book lovers. They're a really good group. And I'm not just saying that because I know a lot of people in it, including my sister. You can find the link on the CKA calendar on our website. But if you do plan on attending, please RSVP to Deb Kaufman so that they can get a tentative head count. And then on a more like back to school religious school registration, we're really happy to announce that registration for the 21-22 religious school year is open. We will be in person this year, and they have a lot of things planned. And, we're really excited to be, back in the building with our students working together. And the first day of class is Sunday, August 22nd. Please get registered as soon as possible. It helps us for budgeting and for those lovely supplies. And it just helps all the way around so we know what's going to be going on for our students and can make it the best possible year for them. As always, you can always find these details and anything else you need on the website. Look, y'all like after 2 years, y'all totally gotten it on the website. As is our custom here at Congregation Kol Ami, we want to wish Mr. Misha Beirach speedy healing to those who are in need. If you have a name that's not on the list and you'd like to add someone as I go through the room, please just raise your hand and let me know.
Sue Berger, Howard Hall, Tom Holliday, Marion Kaplan, Mike Nelson, Mike Gornick, Shirley Hayden, Earl Cachter, Jay Harris.
Thank you.
Sarah Moore,
Thank you.
Carol Jones.
Thank you. I'll add Melissa too. May the ones who blessed our ancestors also bless Harry Anthony, Natalie Bovino, Inga Brooks, Michael Burke, Karen Bucksbaum, Shanna Child, Maxine Collins, Sandy Cook, Dave Cook, Jerry Dietz, Pat Ducar, Gordon Ellison, Tammy Ferris, Debbie Freed, Michelle Griffith, Ken Hirschman, Jody Hoffman, Deb Kaufman, Lauren Koenig, Alex Koenig, Deb Ledden, Susan Lee, Sandy Lesner, Karen Moore, Kanika Ole, Lisa Paley, Herbert Paley, Paul Redwood Jr., Sandy Garber Rubin, Adrian Sandler, Myra Schusler, and Lance Watts. If you please join me with Misha Beirach, you can find it on the back of the bulletin or on page 79. Misha Beirach Avotenu Mikor HaBracha Limotenu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishe Beirach Imotenu Mekor HaBracha Lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
So as a history geek, I just can't let the 18th century go unremarked upon. All right, since Mozart was doing his music, he was very fortunate because he was hanging out in the palace in Vienna. I've been watching the television series Versailles about Louis XIV building his magnificent palace in Versailles. But what they're not talking about is that Versailles had the worst engineered toilets in the 18th century. Oh my God, it was not only were they poorly designed, but they were terribly inadequate for the number of people staying at the palace. Voltaire stayed there and said it was revoltering. All right. Anyway, enough of that. Page 82, I invite you all again, if you're able, please rise. Could I get a young volunteer? Anybody want to come up here and help me out with the ark? Yes, I'll take you all. Come on, come on. All right, we're gonna start out with the women up front and the men in reserve. You come on over here. Wait, there's more. Oh, excellent, outstanding. All right, so your team A, your team B, I need you to both open. You open that side of it, and you open that. And what it does is it folds out and goes to the side. So ready, everybody? Reach in there. Use your powers and pull it out and away. Yeah, so it comes out and it comes towards you. See? Oh my God, you're going to be buried by it. Come on outside. Come on. All right, there we go. Oh, wow. There we are. All right. Page 82. Do what I do. Ling shabe akwadon hako, la tekidu la sereshi, shelo asan kuboye araso, velo samanu, kamishwako adama. Now I bow. Shelo samanu mahem, vego ralenu kego amonam, vanani kuori, umishtakani mudichinam, lifne melen, alfe hamlaki, hakadosh baruch. We go on a little bit longer. Shehunutin shamayim v'yosed haaretz, u'moshav yitaro b'shamayim imam, u'shmi'atu zo, v'gohei meromim, u'Eloheinu eino, emet malkeinu efesu kakatu b'torato, v'yadata hayom b'asherotam el vavecha, ki Adonai hu ha'Elohim, b'shamayim nimah, v'ha'aretz do you remember the two pillars I mentioned to the Davises that was in front of the ancient temple? You hear me talk about that?
Yep.
See, there they are, and there they are, and there they are. All right, so power and uprightness. All right, guys, close the gates for me. Go ahead. Yeah, there you go. You can help. Yeah, there you go. Vayom ha'u, you shake hands. Vayom ha'u, yeh Adonai echad, u'shemo echad. Yasher koach, thank you for helping me, sir. All right, down you go, my dears. It's nice to have children back. All right, so we do take time now to think, yes, please be seated for a moment. We do take time now to actually mourn and to think about those people who have touched our lives, the people who've been important to us, who are no longer physically with us. There are people who have changed us and made our lives better, but we can't have them with us Still, we invoke their name and we recall their memory and we honor them. And so I begin by asking, is there anybody here who's lost a loved one in the last 7 days? Please share the names with us. Thank you. All right. Here at Congregation Kol Ami, we continue to mourn with Elizabeth Cohen, who's grieving for the loss of her mother, Jackie Tucker. Is there anybody who's lost a loved one in the last month? And this week within our congregation, we're thinking of these individuals connected to our community whose anniversaries of death, whose yahrzeits occur this week. Dorothy Chidsey, Warren Dennis, Jack Diamond, Mark Friedman, Dorothy Kaplan, Charles Klein, Eula Jean Ledden, Lorelei Levin, Alan Merkler, Florence Weiss, and Stephen Zucker. Is there any other names we need to add to that list?
Judy Spiegel.
Thank you. The memory of all these people are here with us now. For those who remember them directly, we hope that that memory grows sweet with the passing years. We want to show our sympathy and our support by rising together, and on page 85, we recite the Mourner's Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, ba'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon u'b'yomechon, u'v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, b'galal u'izman kariv v'imru, amen. Yehei shmei rabba mevorach le'elam u'lamei amaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei d'kudsha barichu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tush b'chata v'nechemata damiran be'elma v'yimru amen. Yehei shlama rabba mim shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Osei shalom b'mru huya sei shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. May the source of peace, who makes peace in places far beyond our understanding, make peace for those who mourn and comfort those who are bereaved. And let us say, amen. Please be seated. So what's our closing song for
It is
tonight?
Yedid Nefesh on page 105.
Yedid Nefesh on page, what's that,
105.
105. Yedid Nefesh, the lovely medieval poem, the longer version of which is known as the Shir HaKavod, the Song of Glory. But it begins with this wonderful pining poem. And God, will you come close, take your servant in your arms.
Like a deer jumping into
Like a deer leaping.
into
Yes, exactly.
Yedid Nefesh Rachaman, Yedid Nefesh Rachaman, Mishochav Decha, El Ritzonecha, Mishochav Decha, la 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 la, El Ritzonecha, Yarutz Avdecha, Kimu Ayal, Yishtachave la la la, la 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 la, El Muchadarecha, Yarutz Avdecha, Kimu Ayal, Yishtachave la la la, la 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 la, El Muchadarecha.
Like a stag, your servant runs before you, bowing before your beauty. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time now for us to do a little bit of Kiddush to honor the end of our ceremony and to welcome the Sabbath, and then to also do a motzi. So we're going to begin with Kiddush. I think it's on page 86 for those who want to follow along. So, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Orei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kishanu b'mitzvotav le'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho ahav ratzon hiskilanu zikaron l'maaseh b'reishit ki hu yom tehillah l'mikra'e kodesh zeh peretziah mitzrayim ki banu v'harta v'yotanu kidashta mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava u'ratzon hinkaltanu Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. L'chaim. So we're still working on the transition from what we used to do to what we're doing now. So once again, I ended up bringing the challah because we couldn't quite figure out who else was in charge of it. It was very fortunate tonight that my 20-something son ran out the door and my wife didn't get home from work before the service started. So what did they need a challah for, right? So I'm walking out the door and my dog is staring at me because my dog always gets a piece of challah. So I ran back in and I cut off the heel and I gave the heel to the dog. And now we can say the bracha for the challah. So, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Shabbat shalom, everybody. There will be self-contained little snacks out there for everybody, and you're welcome to that. But for now, I'm going to pass out some